Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and to the garden. Just a very brief video today, just discussing grouping and layering of plants. Not necessarily just for tropical planting, it does work for all types of gardening styles. So just going to go look into the benefits of grouping and layering plants correctly, which would mean all year round interest in your garden, happier and healthier plants, and also a little bit less work for you in the long run. So few factors to consider, guys, when you are grouping plants together. It could be for like a new planting, or even just adding new plants, in the spring, things like this. Now, with that said, guys, I think the best thing to start with in regard to grouping is the soil. So essentially, guys, what are we doing when we're grouping plants? Essentially, we're going to put plants that have similar needs with each other. Really just minimizes the effort that we need to do when watering, sunlight, these types of things here. So soil type is important. Whether it's free draining, you may have a more kind of rich type of soil for certain plants. So say, for example, guys, in front of us here, we've got the Cordyline australis right here. You've got your Trachycarpus fortunei. We've also got a Yucca jewel just on the corner, and some ferns here. Now, with this grouping here, guys, for the most part, these plants will like more of a free draining soil. Again, I've kept them all together really just to ensure that the needs of the plants are all met. Now, you can just see down here, guys, you've got the mush left over of the Xanthodecia. But together, this grouping of plants here, guys, for requirements, essentially, very similar light requirements, soil requirements, things like that. So certainly to think about this, guys, when you are grouping plants together. Water, of course, is important as well. When we're talking about sort of water requirements, certain plants, for example, guys, like the tree fern that you can see here that's wrapped up, that is a moisture loving plant. So that's going to have a lot higher water needs than, for example, the Chamaerops here, Chamaerops humilis. So again, when you are thinking about water, soil types and things like that, and you've got a group of plants you'd like to put together, it is important to bear in mind, of course, light is another factor. So you may have some plants that are sun-loving plants. You've also got some that prefer more of a sort of shaded environment. So, of course, all of these kind of factors, guys, are worth sort of thinking about. Now, of course, with that said, guys, there's a lot of other factors to consider when you are starting a new planting or adding to a planting. So, for example, guys, we've got things like your ground level plants. We've got the kind of mid-story plants, and then the plants that create a canopy. Now, when you may be starting off, of course, you may not have as large a plants and sort of already had a canopy present, but it just may mean that when you are planting, say, for example, something like a palm tree, we know that the eventual height of this palm should get, well over sort of 10 meters or so, putting it into a canopy level plant. Now, other plants, guys, similar to like the grasses, for example, on the ground here. Now, I know, of course, this is going to stay around that sort of height. It is at its eventual size. So it just simply means, understanding where plants go in regard to the, the different sort of areas, if you will, when you're looking up. There's another area to consider when you are planting, of course, is the plant type. So we could have things like, for example, evergreen plants. Now we are in sort of the middle of winter here, so what you're seeing in my garden is all the evergreen plants. But with that said, of course, yes, so you start off certainly with kind of things like your evergreen backbone, something that's going to be there, all year. And then what we're doing is filling in the kind of plants. So, when it comes to, say, for example, flowering times and things like that, you may have spring flowers, you may have sort of midsummer flowers. We may also have your sort of late autumn flowers. So what I typically like to do if I'm grouping plants together is to put something, for example, that is evergreen, with something that may be a spring flower, a summer, autumn as well. So really what we're doing is we're maximizing the kind of all year round display that you get here with your plants. You can just see here, guys, for example, a lot of the large plants in my garden are springtime plants. So this rhododendron here, you can see, even though we're at the end of January, Still got loads of new flower buds coming out on these. Similarly, again guys, the camellias in the back here, again also springtime flowers, and just down in front of us the azaleas also will be springtime flowers. But you can also see guys, when it comes to kind of grouping, yes, so we've addressed the soil, the light and the water requirements. Now of course there's other things to think about guys, like even sort of leaf shape. So for example, you know, you may want contrasting leaves, something very different, or you may want to follow a style and, you know, perhaps have all spiky leaves or all round or all large leaves. Now, of course, that is completely down to style, and really guys, the whole point of kind of this video and speaking about grouping is, as we're coming into spring, we've got new plants to add. It's always worth kind of thinking about sort of when that plant's at its best, you know, what kind of time of year it may flower, if it's a flowering plant, if it's evergreen, deciduous. You know, these are the types of things to think about. Now alongside that guys, we can also pair with things like perennials and annuals. So just off the back here guys, we've got our Musa Basju cold hardy bananas. Well, there's a mush of what's left of them. You can see this is protected for the year here, but these are sort of up every spring. So this is a perennial that's you know, one of the kind of more tropical perennials that you can have here. But of course guys, you know, when pairing up different plants and grouping different plants, again, really just to kind of make your life easier, you know, if you kind of keep plants that have a similar soil requirement, light requirement, and also water requirement, you know, it can mean that they thrive a lot better, as you're not having to overwater one, trying to avoid watering another, you know, so these are the kind of things to think about here. But just as we pan around guys, an example of being able to use the soil to your advantage. So for example here guys, we've got our Botia odorata palm here, jelly palm or pindo palm, and you can just see this is in a raised bed. So what I've essentially done is lifted the plant up around about sort of a foot and a half, and backfilled that all with gravel, again providing a little bit better drainage for the plant, as it does require that sort of better drainage. So again, I think when it comes to thinking of grouping and different plant types, you know, the other areas really to consider, again, when you are pairing is, once again, eventual height of the plant, and, you know, positioning as well in your garden. So with that said, guys, if you did find this video helpful, and certainly feel free to subscribe, like, and share, and we will see you in the next one.